Hello, my stamping friends. This is Renee Novak at blessedbycards.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States, and I'm here today with another Make It Monday tutorial. Today we are going to create 6 different cards using the Simply Succulent stamp set and dies. The stamp set, I'm going to use quite a few of these in here, and I'm also going to use the big die from the dies. We're going to use some Artistically ink, this particular stamp right here, to create a background. And I'm using the nestled dies also. First technique we're going to start out is a watercolor technique. So you're going to need some watercolor paper, and then you're going to need an ink color of your choice. I have chosen Pool Party. And so I have my re-inker here, and I like to use acrylic blocks when I'm doing watercolor. So I'm just going to put a little bit on this block. I usually use that as my palette. And I've got a little bit of extra water here because we really do want a lot of water on this particular card. So this background, you're going to want to get it real saucy. And you're going to want to put quite a bit of water on there because you're going to come back. You want it to somewhat be pooling. And then you do want a lot of water in here. And you're just going to add that to your paper. And as you can see, because there's so much water, it is pooling. And that's what you want. So I just add this in here. You just want creating a little background for our stamp. And there you have a pooling of water. We'll come back to this. I like to let mine dry naturally, so I'm just going to set it off to the side here. You can use the heat gun to dry it to speed up the process, but I like to let it dry naturally just to see how it forms. One thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you clean your brush onto some paper towels or onto a piece of paper that will make sure that your color is gone clear. Once it's gone clear, then you're good to go for the next color change. So don't forget that step. So technique number 2 is a background created using the blend brushes, and I've already started mine to show you, but I have used the soft Succulent and the fresh Freesia. So what you'll want to do is get some of that color onto your blending brush, and I like to have a piece of paper that I start off on and then swirl over, just because I tend to have a heavy hand and I don't like that brush look. So all you'll do is just continue to blend, and you can grab more color and then again continue to blend. And I'm doing a really pretty soft touch. This technique takes a while. That's why I went ahead and started it ahead of time so that you didn't have to sit here and watch me blend all the colors, because you really do, in order to get a soft looking background, you want to continue to just blend soft color on top of soft color. It will get darker, but if you try to do it dark all at once, you're going to get these blotches like I have there. I like to start on a larger piece of paper so that I can then cut my design down. And I will share with you, I cut out the large die, and isn't that lovely? And you can put it on wherever. I like to use the big paper because you never know what it's going to look like when you're done. And so you can position your die wherever you want to create a beautiful card. And this side I went ahead and did ahead of time so you could see a little different color change. I used some of the pale Papaya, some Highland Heather, and some soft Succulent. Now I will have all of these inks and everything that I used and the measurements on my blog, so don't feel like you have to write it down. But that would be what it would look like if you wanted to do a very soft look. I went ahead and did a darker look. This is done with Misty, Moonlight, Daffodil Delight, and Rich Razzleberry. And what I did was I cut out the black out of the die, and when you position it on the card, you get this really lovely background effect. I stamped the thanks from the Artistically inked in black, Memento Black, and I cut it out with a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine using those nestled dies, and that creates a really lovely card. So again, if you want a softer look, you can go with this. You could also still have a softer look using the black. There are so many possibilities with this particular set. So that is number 2. So background number 3 is where I took the Artistically inked stamp, this one here, and I just stamped it and created a background. So this is stamped with the Fresh Freesia, Pear Pizzazz, and Simply Succulent. But for my sample today, I thought we could mix it up, and I would show you how I stamped on here, and I'm going to use the Just Jade and the polished pink. So I'm just going to sauce this up, and I just kind of randomly put it down. You can switch your stamp around. You can leave some white space. So now I want to bring in my chamois here so that I can get that cleaned off before I stick it into my pink. Alright, so let's try a little polished pink. And I'm just going to sauce that up. And then I'm just going to stamp it right down. That's pretty. You can stamp it right over the top. You don't have to. You can make it nestle in this stamp set if you flip it back and forth like I am doing. And then I'm going to clean this again, and I'm going to come back in with just a little bit more of the green because I want it to be a little more evenly distributed. So I'm coming in and I'm flipping this one so I have the smaller side there and the smaller side here. And there you have it. That's how I created that unique looking background. Let me show you my lighter color. This one with 3 colors was a little bit easier because you didn't have to worry exactly where you were placing your colors. So I might recommend a 3 color. You could also stamp off on the green to make it a lighter color if you wanted to. Let me show you the card that I created using that background. Here it is. And again, this is the Fresh Freesia. And there you have that very beautiful background card. So for the one that we created, I have the polished pink, and you could put that right onto the polished pink, and or you could put it onto the Just Jade. And you could either do the black background or you could do the lighter background. It just all depends on what you want. So play around with it, have fun, get your creative juices going and see what you can create. So for the next background, I'm going to bring in this little template that I created. Now what I did was I cut that large die out of a, this is a really thick, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see that. This is a really thick piece of vellum cardstock, but you could use a window sheet, you could use Mylar, you could use something really thick so that you could continue to use it over and over again. And I will say this is a very delicate looking thing, so I'm going to use my Daubers. So I'm bringing in, let's go this way maybe. I'm bringing in the fresh Freesia and some papaya, pale papaya, balmy blue, and garden green. So I'm going to start out with the fresh Freesia. And one of the things I like to do when I'm using the sponge daubers is tap it off into my plate, only because, I don't know if you can see that, but I tap it off in here because, again, I don't like to have, sorry, I should have thought ahead about my board. It's a little bit too big for my workspace here. But we'll work with it, no worries. All you have to do is just get your ink, and I'm kind of doing a pouncing movement. It's not a real hard pounce, but it is a pounce as opposed to a rubbing because the dye is so delicate. I don't want to tear it, and so I also don't want to have those marks. But you can get it like darker if you come right with dark for the center, and then you can continue to pounce the softer color. Okay, so that is the fresh Freesia. So now I will show you the Granny Apple Green. It's the same concept. What you want to do, again, is just, you can see where I've pounced off there, but you bring in that color. And again, just wherever you want to do it, just start doing that little bit of a pouncing movement. I'm tapping and pouncing. I'm not really rubbing. If you wanted to rub, you could. You would have to be very careful with the template, especially if you do want to use it again. Okay, so that is the Granny Apple Green, and then I repeated that with the pale papaya. And through the magic of TV, I can give you a sample that is already completed. So what will happen is you're going to tear that template off, and it's going to reveal the outline. And this is what it will create in the end. So it is kind of another unique and fun technique that you can do. And then you got to pick your backgrounds. So I kind of chose pale papaya and the fresh Freesia. But I also have the Granny Apple Green, and the fresh Freesia. So you're going to play around with it again to see which colors you like. I think I might like the Granny Apple Green. Which color do you like best? Here's the pale papaya. They both look very nice, but you can pick. Okay, so that's technique number 4. Okay, so our 5th card is going to be where I cut those actual flowers from the die. And I'm just going to position them on there and glue them down. And then this thanks is from Artistically Inked. And then that quickly you have another card. So that's card number 5. Card number 6 is our traditional type card. And that is where you just have a card base. And I added an embossing folder and a strip of gray granite. I used the blending pens to create this because I'm going to put my little pot down that I stamped and colored with the gray granite blends. And I'm putting that down here on top of this. And this is another stamp from that Simply Succulents, and I went ahead and colored that ahead of time. And you'll see that these are just all with blends. I used the Mint Macaron, the Just Jade, the Freesia, and the Highland Heather. And this is Granny Apple Green and a little bit of Old Olive. I stamped this thanks on Memento Black and cut it out with the die from the Simply Succulents So there you have a traditional cards. That's card number 6. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Give me a thumbs up. And again, I'll have all the information on my blog, so feel free to hop on over to check that out. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you next Monday for another Make It Monday tutorial. Until then, be blessed.